Well, these 4 dates here are a prophecy, and the prophecy is a message against authoritarianism in all of its forms, wherever it may be. And yesterday I did watch the interview with Jay-Z, and he came across to me, I have to say, as a really nice guy. I've only ever known the music of Jay-Z. I've never seen an interview with him before. May have heard some short interviews on the radio, but this was a proper sit-down, lengthy, in-depth interview. And I have to say, he came across as a really intelligent and nice person. Exactly the opposite of the way Donald Trump comes across to me. And Australia's version of Donald Trump, I guess, would be Peter Dutton, the head of Immigration and Border Protection, and now the head of Home Affairs. So Australia has followed America in a lot of ways, and it even has its own little Trump in Peter Dutton. Someone who badmouths people who come from certain parts of the world and stigmatizes people if they're from a certain race, and just demeans them, belittles them, says nasty racist stuff. And yeah, I thought the interview with Jay-Z was great, and he's definitely my kind of guy. Donald Trump is totally not my kind of guy. Peter Dutton, totally not my kind of guy at all. I can't stand them. And I guess there's a lot of people out there who like them, and I just think they're nasty people, to be honest. I think you can care about, even saying you care about the economy, which is the point of Donald Trump's response to Jay-Z, is saying, can someone tell Jay-Z that my policies have improved employment for black people? It's like, well, actually, Barack Obama was president for 8 years. He inherited an economy that had just collapsed. Globally, we just had the financial crisis. And Barack Obama, I think, in his second term, there was definitely a big lift in the economy in America, which Donald Trump, after 1 year, is trying to take all the credit for, which does happen with politics all the time. But on this occasion, like after 1 year in power, not much has even been passed yet in terms of reform, and you're trying to take credit for what your predecessor did to take attention away from the fact that you're a racist. And I don't know how Donald Trump can claim he's not a racist after some of the stuff he said about Mexicans in particular, right at the start of his campaign. It was pure racist. You don't get more racist than that. And so for Jay-Z to come out and say that Donald Trump it's like sweeping racism under the carpet, has ended up producing the superbug of racism in Donald Trump. I think that's very true. Racism is a real thing, and to deny that is crazy. It has been a very real force in America for a very long time. It has been a very real force in Australia for a very long time. It's actually not so long since Australia had the White Australia policy. And to deny the realities of the past, the fact that there has been very strong racism in the past, in America, in Australia, in a lot of other countries too, it's just crazy, because it's a fact. And it has hurt a lot of people over the years. There's been a lot of people killed purely because of racism. And exploitation of people is another thing that is not necessarily racist, but economic exploitation, financial exploitation. I see a lot of that happening in the world today, and I see that being made worse by giving tax breaks to the wealthy, as the large percentage of people become less wealthy, and a small percentage near the top become more wealthy. I think there's absolutely no grounds for Donald Trump to be claiming any credit on economic grounds either. The stock market's strong. Wow. That's not exactly something that the president can claim totally, after 1 year in power, can claim absolute credit for. So yeah, this is a prophecy against authoritarianism, because authoritarianism at the end of the day is what I dislike the most, and it's the reason I don't support many governments at all. And I especially despise governments that lock people up for things other than committing serious crimes. So I've got no time for Russia, for Vladimir Putin and his dodgy, very dodgy version of democracy, which he has taken more towards dictatorship. So this is not a prophecy against Americans or Australians. It is a prophecy against people who use propaganda, political propaganda, to advance their own selfish cause. That's what my prophecy is against, my message is against, and that's why my message is backed up by Jacob and Nathan, I believe, I feel, because it's probably no coincidence, because Jake's dad did a lot of work to help the cause of black people in America, back at even before, long before his son was abducted and murdered, which had nothing to do with racism. But it happened. And Jake, I feel Jake supports me in the message that I'm putting out, and if there's some truth in the message, there's definitely truth in the message. If there's truth in the prophecy, if there's things that happen on these dates that reflect some kind of message, then I would give credit for that to Jake and Nathan. And I'm talking about Jacob Wetterling from Minnesota and Nathan Breeze, who was from Victoria in Australia. And Nathan was 13 and he died on the 7th of February 2009 in Australia's worst ever bushfire disaster. And I don't think it's a coincidence that the people I do not like for their racism, their racist comments, the way they stigmatize and demean people from certain parts of the world, those same people are the climate change deniers who are not in any hurry to protect people from the horror of things like the Black Saturday firestorms. They weren't bushfires, it was a mega fire. And Nathan Breeze was 13 years old when he died in that event. So we're coming up to the 9-year anniversary on Wednesday, 7th of February 2018, and 9 days later will be the anniversary of Ash Wednesday bushfires, and that falls on Friday, the 16th of February 2018. Kind of weird because the anniversary of Black Friday, which was back in 1939, and today is 39 days away from Friday 9th of March 2018. Well, the anniversary of Black Friday fell on the Saturday, the 13th of January 2018. So each anniversary of Australia's 3 most recognised bushfire disasters, we've also had the Canberra firestorm in 2003, where all 3 anniversaries have fallen on each other's days. And the anniversary of the Canberra firestorm was the 18th of January, which isn't so long ago. So that's signs in nature is what I'm referring to. Signs in nature. Whether it's volcanoes, earthquakes, tsunamis, bushfires, tropical cyclones, you name it. It could be any of those things. It could be severe thunderstorms. It could be rainbows. There was a spectacular rainbow actually. A very spectacular rainbow the other day. And these are the tropical cyclone names of this year for Australia. Dahlia was named by Indonesia, and the rest, the ones that I've underlined, are yet to come. And something I like to do, it's like a little code thing, something to do with mathematics, turning letters into numbers. So take the D, turn it into a 4. Take the A, turn it into a 1. Add them all up. You've got to include the word AND to join Riley and Savannah. AND has a value of 19. Add them all up, you get 741. Now my partner, my former partner, my would-be partner is from southern India, central southern India, and he was born on Saturday the 9th of March 1991. So he's turning 27 on Friday the 9th of March 2018. And that's the main date that I've focused on here. And we're still best friends, but as for being partners, that wasn't to be, because Immigration and Border Protection did not approve our partner visa. And I really do put that down to Peter Dutton and his attitude, his racist attitude. I very much put it down to that, because our partner visa could not have been more complete. We provided over 1,000 pages of statements, photographs, statutory declarations, everything you could be asked to provide, we provided. And they completely and utterly rejected our application after extending the waiting time. The estimated waiting time went from 6 months to a year, then to 15 months, and then they rejected without notifying me at all, and I didn't even know for another 6 months what the outcome was. So in the end it caused problems between me and my ex-partner. We are now friends again, but you know, they tried to kill the friendship as well as the relationship. They did not succeed in killing our friendship. In the end, we're still friends. They did, as far as being living together goes, they killed that idea. And it's something that I don't appreciate. And I think it's interesting that my best friend was born on a Saturday. He's turning 27. And all those letters of all those names and the word "and" is 741. And that's the number of days between Saturday, 27th of February, 2016, the devil year, the year that we were forced to be apart by Immigration and Border Protection in Australia, headed up by Peter Dutton, and who is now the Minister for Home Affairs, who I very much see a similar attitude as what I see in Donald Trump. And starting a countdown on Saturday 27th of February 2016, Jake equals 27, and the 27th was one of the dates I flagged recently. I saw a big sign on the 27th, just gone. A big sign. It was a rainbow. And it wasn't a normal rainbow. So, going back to 2016, and you know 2016 is 666 times 3 plus 6 times 3. And it was the devil year for me and my best friend, because we were forcibly separated for the whole year. So something's going to happen on Friday, 9th of March 2018, which is going to reflect our pain and the pain that was caused and forced onto us by a government department, which is precisely why I am making a prophecy that is a message against authoritarianism. People in government who enjoy having power over others just because it makes them feel good. I hate that. I really hate that. And that's why I really like this. I like what Jay-Z said about Donald Trump and about the plight of people of color in the United States and the way they're treated badly. I find it very easy to believe, because I've experienced, as a gay guy, I've experienced a bit of the same thing, quite a lot actually. But I am very appreciative that Australians have voted to allow same-sex marriage, and I think it's kind of cool that Peter Dutton's plan to stop same-sex marriage, which was the postal survey, well, it ended up blowing up in his face, and from his proposal, same-sex marriage ended up being voted in favour and passed through Parliament. So I think there's justice in that, and there's karma in that, in what happened there. So, this is Donald Trump's response to Jay-Z.
So as the president prepares for his State of the Union address in just 2 days, his attention is also focused on rapper Jay-Z and comments the music mogul made on Van Jones' new show, which premiered last night on CNN. Trump tweeting this morning, Somebody please inform Jay-Z that because of my policies, black unemployment has just been reported to be at the lowest rate ever recorded. So, what set off the president? Take a look.
He is somebody who's now saying, look, I'm dropping black unemployment. Black people are doing well under my administration. Does he have a point that maybe the Democrats have been giving us good lip service but no jobs? Maybe he's going to say terrible things but put money in our pocket. Does that make him a good leader?
No, because it's not about money at the end of the day. Money doesn't equate to like happiness. It doesn't. That's not missing the whole point. We treat people like human beings, and then that's the main point. You can't treat someone like it goes back to the whole thing. You're gonna treat me really bad and pay me well.
Right.
It's not gonna lead to happiness. It's gonna lead to again, the same thing. Everyone's gonna be sick.
I spoke to Van Jones last hour about that interview, and here's what he had to say. Do you feel like, as a result of the president's tweet, he misses the point of what was central to the conversation?
Yeah, I thought it was, obviously it's good to get attention for the show, but really, he totally missed the point. I mean, Jay-Z last night was stunning. He was confessional. Usually hip-hop, you think, braggadocious and accusatory. He was the opposite of that. He was confessional. He was humble. He talked about struggles with his marriage. He talked about his children. And he really set the kind of example I wish the president would set. The president is now the guy who's braggadocious, accusatory, never confesses to anything, never shows any public growth. Meanwhile, Jay-Z is just growing and growing and growing in front of the public eye. And part of what he talked about, which I think really set Donald Trump off, he talked about the racism in the country. And he talked about how, in a very interesting way, he talked about how the fact that we keep pushing it under the rug, when somebody says something racist and we just smack them down and we push them out of public life, it's making things worse. It's actually making the virus get worse.
Systemic racism.
Yeah. And so but then he said that we've now pushed it under the rug so much that it's now come back as a superbug of racism, Donald Trump. So he called Donald Trump a superbug of racism, and then I challenged myself, well, isn't he doing something good? And then he pointed out, just having a little bit more money in the economy doesn't count if you're treating people badly. It was a profound interview. It was thoughtful. It was substantive. And for the president, who apparently didn't even watch it, for him just to fire off something, I think was disrespectful of an icon in this community.
You got a feeling that the president did not watch the show in its entirety or see the message in its entirety, that perhaps he got a snippet of it elsewhere, seized upon that, misses the whole point about numbers versus quality, in which you make reference to people, in which you treat people.
Dignity.
And that was the underlying message. That was the nucleus of the message that Jay-Z was making.
And what's so interesting about this president is he could actually, and it sounds crazy to say this, he could actually learn from Jay-Z. Jay-Z is a very rich person, a successful person, he's a business person.
A fellow New Yorker.
A fellow New Yorker, but he's had one marriage. And he has fought for that marriage. And he was just unbelievable last night, talking about, this is my soulmate, I'm fighting for this marriage. Donald Trump has 3 marriages. I have never heard Donald Trump refer to the First Lady as his soulmate. And if he did, I'm not sure what people would say about that. Also, Donald Trump loves to pick fights with people, like black rappers, like football players, like FBI agents, like journalists. But he's yet to pick a fight with these Russians who messed up our election. He's yet to pick a fight with these white supremacist terrorist organizations that are growing by leaps and bounds and killing people in America. And so why do you continue to pick on certain kinds of people if you want to be a tough guy and leave others alone? I would say that if I were a father, and I am, I would rather have my kid follow the example of Jay-Z, Sean Jay-Z Carter, mistakes he's made that he's confessed to and improved his life, than to base his life on someone like Donald Trump, who makes the same mistake over and over again and never improves.
All right, the conversation.